All right. So last week we discussed what the Ravens need to do this offseason. This week it's time for some Panthers talk. Are you ready to talk some Panthers? Are you ready
Always.
to talk some Panthers? Let's talk some Panthers. As you take a sip of water.
Yes. So obviously the biggest thing in Carolina right now is what's happening at quarterback. Houston is still playing dumb with Deshaun Watson. So, the Panthers are kind of, steering back towards, hey, we love Teddy. Teddy's our guy kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, just in case they have to go with Teddy. I still, I don't think Teddy's going to be the starter for all of this coming year, even if he is still here. I think they're still going to push very hard to try to get Deshaun Watson. If they can't get that done, I think they are going to take a quarterback at 8. I'm guessing it's going to be Trey Lance. I'm praying that it's not Mac Jones. It can't be Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Can't be.
Yeah.
But so that aside, because nobody knows the answer to that right now. That depends on when Houston wakes up and realizes, hey, we're trading Deshaun Watson, right?
Right.
So aside from that, the biggest issue in Carolina is the offensive line, because they do not have one. Taylor Moton was franchised, though they're going to work out a long-term deal with him. They're sitting at $29 million under the cap right now, but that's including about $14 million for it doesn't include, it's for $14 million for Taylor Moton on the franchise tag. So once he gets signed, their cap space will actually go up for this coming season. But John Miller, who started a lot of last season, Russell Okung, who started last season, they're both free agents. And, not really worth bringing back. Honestly, they should be looking at a replacement for Matt Paradis at center. And they need to figure out the other guard spot as well. They honestly need to figure out the 4 spots that are not right tackle. And that's just an awful place to be, especially when you're picking in the top 10, but you still need a quarterback, right?
Yeah. So fortunately for them, there have been a lot of cuts to O-linemen these last few days.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're not all, should I say, they're not the greatest of linemen, or some of them they're older, some of them are injury prone, but you can get some solid ones out there. And I think with the cap space that you have, you can, I won't say easily, but you can, there's possibility there for you to get what you need to show up the O-line through free agency and through the draft as well. You're going to have to do a good job getting the right people to come in here and fit your scheme. And also, you got to hit on the draft too, I think. I don't think you want to go and get your whole O-line off the street.
Yeah, Trey Turner got released. He had an awful year last year after he got traded out of Carolina.
Yeah.
But he's a 5-time Pro Bowler. I think he's probably going to have a bounce back year.
Yeah.
Andrew Norwell is also possibly getting released. They haven't done it yet, but another former Panther who left to get his money. Kevin Zeitler got released in New York a few days ago. He's another really good option at guard. Gabe Jackson, Mitchell Schwartz, although he's considering retirement. Riley Rife. I think there's guys out there who they can look at, but the real question is going to be, are they going to have that 8th pick? Like you can't really make your plan without knowing that, right? Because if you're picking at 8, like I said, you can go quarterback, but if you want to fix the O-line before anything else, you're going to have Penei Sewell or Rashawn Slater there as options.
Yeah. Now, Trey Turner and Norwell, I just say you can't get your whole O-line off the street, but those two have played here before. Now, they haven't played for this coach, but those two plus Taylor Moton, they've all played together. Yeah. So there's that. I think there's that chemistry.
Actually, I don't think that they played with Taylor Moton necessarily. I think that he was on the team for the last year, but I don't think I'm not sure if he was starting when they were there.
But he was still in the rotation, right?
I'm trying to remember. I don't think he was there yet, because he's at the end of his 4-year deal right now, so which means he would have been he would have been drafted in 2017. Okay. So It was
Okay.
Daryl Williams who they actually
Darrell
that
Williams.
they
Yeah.
played with.
Yeah. But either way, I mean, Moten and Trey Turner played together. So there's
No,
that.
Norwell and Trey Turner played together.
I said
Yeah.
Norwell, and Trey Turner have played together. So there's that chemistry between those two at least.
Mhm.
So it's just a matter. Again, me and B are of the thought if you have talent, it's a coach's job to make sure they fit into your scheme. So
Actually, what am I thinking about, man? Moten did play with Trey Turner, just not Norwell.
not Norwell. Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's fine. Yeah. But there's my point was there's that chemistry between the players already there, right? So they kind of know each other's tendencies somewhat,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, bring them back, and then yeah, when it comes to the draft, whether you have the 8th pick or not, yes, it does matter if you're going to have the pick or if you're going to have a quarterback or whatever. But you have other rounds that you got to hit on. It can't just be the first round. So
Yeah.
you can do a lot. You maybe you don't get a clear answer at left tackle, but even that's something you can get in free agency. But at least you can have the other positions somewhat shored up, so your O line isn't complete trash, and that would be a huge step.
Yeah, they haven't protected the quarterback in a very long time in Carolina.
Yeah.
They haven't had a good O line. I mean, they had a solid O line when they went to the Super Bowl, but Michael Oher and Mike Remmers got exposed badly in the Super Bowl in that game. Like they had a pretty soft schedule that year.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you can't get the deal done for Deshaun Watson and you're still picking at 8, then you can make that decision of, hey, do we want to go after the left tackle of the future, because obviously it's not Greg Little, or do we want to take the quarterback and just kind of let him sit and say you're on your own, Teddy, for a while.
So obviously that's the biggest decision that they have to make, and right now it's kind of out of their hands. I do think the Panthers have done all the right moves to put themselves in position to bring Deshaun Watson onto the team. They've made a strong offer, obviously, right? They've kind of publicly said it. Yeah, we're even willing to move Christian McCaffrey. So they're doing whatever they need to do to get Deshaun Watson. They're trying to meet all of Houston's demands that they've said that they would want in exchange for Deshaun Watson. It's just Houston is playing dumb right now, right? Because they're doing that thing that a lot of bad organizations do, thinking, hey, we can't show that the player's in control. We have to be in control all the time, even if it's at the detriment to our own team.
Yeah.
Which, at the end of the day, it's not going to work. It's a new time. It's a new era. And they're going to have to just submit to his demands. You can't even ship him off to a team that he doesn't want to go to because he has a no trade clause. So just go ahead and get it done. You're not going to get a better offer than what the Panthers are offering, in my opinion. So go ahead and make the deal happen before the Panthers do make other plans. And then you're going into next year where his value is going to drop. Even if he plays well, you're not going to get the same offer that you're getting this year.
Well, somebody said, I forget who it was on Twitter, but they're saying that their leverage drops every day that they don't engage in trade talks, because teams are just going to make other plans. And people want Deshaun Watson, but every day that they go down the road of making another plan of not getting Deshaun Watson is another day that they're less interested in getting Deshaun Watson, right?
Sure. And the Panthers have already tried to get Matt Stafford, so they've shown you that we're not going to wait forever for you to decide whether you're going to trade him or not.
Right. So that aside, like I said, they have to really hit the O-line hard this offseason, but they do have other issues. The secondary is just god awful. Also, they really. I know it's over and done with, but man, they really should have re-signed James Bradbury. But all right, they didn't. Okay, he's gone. So you got to hit corner and safety, since they didn't actually really replace Eric Reed. I mean, Jeremy Chin can play both of those roles, but I mean, I think his best spot is going to be at linebacker moving forward. So they need to hit the secondary in free agency, or in the draft, not necessarily free agency. Outside of that, in terms of their own free agents, there's really not a whole lot that needs, of guys who need to come back. I mean, you can re-sign Mike Davis. who, he had 1,000 yards, 1,000 scrimmage yards for you last year. He played pretty well in relief of Christian McCaffrey. Tyler Larson, I mean, if you want to bring him back for some depth, Curtis Samuel is really the big one, and it seems like they're content to let him test free agency, which to me means he's not going to be back.
Well, I mean, free agency is here, right? As we're recording, tampering period starts tomorrow, so there's no deal worked out. He's essentially a hitting free agency starting tomorrow. He's going to get calls. He's going to get calls.
Yeah. A few other guys, F.A. Obata, I want to say that he actually already signed. It's not updated on this site that I'm looking at here. I think he's already committed to being back. Rasul Douglas, Corn Elder, you can bring them back for depth in the secondary. Not great players, but you don't want to go, into free agency in the draft with the cupboard being completely bare.
Right.
Outside of that, man, it's just not a very talented team, honestly. The strongest point of the team, for sure, the wide receivers and the front seven.
Yeah.
The wide receivers and the front seven. And Curtis Samuel is walking. So, I don't know.
Look, there's a lot of work to do here because you want to spend the bulk of your resources fixing the O-line to protect, whether it's Deshaun Watson or it's somebody you draft or it's Teddy Bridgewater. You want to show up that O-line moving forward. So that's the first priority, and that will take up a lot of your resources. Whatever you have left, you want to put into the defense. They struggled last year. They're going to struggle this year, and again, you're going to have to hit in free agency, try to get some cheaper options that can play solid and draft well. You're going to have a really good draft this year.
Yeah, I mean they used all 7 picks on the defense last year. You can't do that again.
No.
I do think, and I know a lot of people wouldn't like it, but I do think they should try to move Christian McCaffrey, whether it's for Deshaun Watson or not. Move him for some draft picks because you can replace a running back. Right? Yeah. Like it's fine. They won't be as good as Christian McCaffrey, but you'll be fine at running back. But they need a lot of picks all over the roster. This has been a thing in Carolina. I mean, pretty much forever. They never have any depth. For a long time, the reason was because they didn't draft very well. And then Dave Gettleman came along and said, I only need 5 picks. And, when you do that and then you don't even hit on all 5 of those picks, like your roster is going to be awful. There's going to be a lot of holes. So they don't have depth pretty much anywhere on the team. Maybe you say they have some depth in the front 7. Not really, though. So they need to get as many picks as they can get. If they're sitting at 8 and Trey Lance is already gone and Fields and Wilson and obviously Lawrence will be gone, they might want to just consider trading back from there also to get some extra draft picks.
Yeah.
Because they really need to just completely overhaul this roster for the most part. Outside of the D-line and at wide receiver.
Yeah. So there you have it, man. Lots of work to do. I will say that as critical as we are of the organization, I do think what they're doing up to this point are the right moves. Right now, they're bringing back Moulton, although they should have already had that deal done. But at least they've tagged him, and it looks like both sides want to get a deal done. That's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. They're making room and putting it out there. We have all the pieces that we need to trade for Deshaun Watson, and we're trying to make that deal happen. That's really great. So those 2 things I give them kudos for. But even when you get those done, there's still a lot more work to do. So we have to see how good Fitterer is, and
not even Fitterer, since they've basically publicly confirmed that he's just he's a yes man for Matt Rule. Yeah, it's what Matt Rule wants.
Rule and Tepper, yeah.
And that's another. There's been a lot of talk about them going after another edge rusher, in specifically Hassan Reddick, as he has that connection from Temple with Matt Rule. I do not want it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with Hassan Reddick. He had a great season. I hope he goes and makes a ton of money somewhere. But you have Brian Burns. You drafted Gross Matos. Roll with those guys. If you want a third, another edge rusher to rotate, get them in the draft. Don't go paying him when you have major, major, major needs on the O line and in the secondary.
See, this is a problem I have with college coaches, right? First time college coaches going into the NFL, and they have too much power because every coach wants guys that they've coached before, but when you're coming out of college, you just want those college guys, and when you don't have a strong GM like Carolina, you just get what you want and you pay whatever you want for these guys. Hassan Reddick is a good player, and if he comes to Carolina, I think he'll look good, right? Playing opposite of Brian Burns, but that's not your number one need.
No,
right? That's not your number one need. So
or 2 or 3.
Right, exactly. So you're kind of just throwing your money away because it doesn't matter how nice that defense is. If you're not protecting your quarterback, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. So that's the problem I have with that. And now that you're saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if they did go out and get Hassan Reddick. But we'll see. Yeah. We'll see. But, okay, so is there anything else we want to add to that?
No, I mean, I know it sounds like we're being pretty negative, but, especially if they go out and they get Deshaun Watson, like the turnaround can happen real quick.
Yes.
They've got edge rushers and they've got Derrick Brown. The D line is going to be set for years. They just restructured Shaq Thompson's contract, so I guess he's not going anywhere in the near future, but he should be because they should not have signed him to that deal. But it's fine. He's a good enough player, and it doesn't really matter who you have a linebacker. I mean, if you get a playmaker there, that's nice, but it's not a huge consequence. Who you have there. They need to go out and get some help in the secondary, and that's going to be available in both free agency and the draft. So if they get better quarterback play and they add a couple pieces to the O-line, add a couple pieces to the secondary, you're talking about a team that could possibly compete for a playoff spot next year. Not saying that they'll make it, but they can make that push.
Yeah, absolutely.